We're live. Okay, but Twitch check. And hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning, Central European winter time. No, this is summertime in Austria. I still haven't figured out where I see the chat for X. I have no idea. I don't see it in on the Twitter app. I don't see it on the web. So if anybody knows how to turn this on, I would be thankful. So yeah, it says live streaming. So this is my YouTube chat. I see a YouTube chat. I see a Twitch chat, but I do not see an X chat for some reason. I see live 5, live 8, split view. See split view. No, that's a split view maybe with YouTube. Yeah. So this is my iPad. And the YouTube video here. No, actually, get it back. Now it's on here on the side. Can I? Stuck to the side. Okay. Word. I want X. Here it is. But okay, so here's the post. Can I go to premium? Premium. There's nothing here. Group. And if I just go to my just go to my profile, there's this. I want post here. X. Here see the chat. But share okay, broadcast. So here's the post. View post interactions. Post interactions. Quote liked. Can I go? I don't know. I don't know how is that supposed to work. Maybe it doesn't work for guys like me. There's nothing. So again, so thanks for watching over the next 2 hours, I'll be working on AgentCorp. And yesterday, I implemented the responses API. So, well, let me just show you what I did yesterday and what I think I would want to work on today. So this is my screen here. I've been working on the OpenAI API for the responses, and I've gotten quite far. So let's see. Here's my Xcode. Oh, it probably needs some tidying up still, but all right. So this is AgentCorp, and in the core, I have the APIs for OpenAI, and I've implemented assistants. So I've got the assistants, files, messages, and so on, and all of that is essentially going away or being folded into the responses API. And just so that as a historical thing, yeah, ChatGPT's API started with just completions. So you would just give it a text and it would create one completion. And that was very quickly superseded with chat completions, where you make a request, giving it several chat messages. This is a chat message. And interesting that it already supports refusal. And you would get back. So this is how you create it, and what you get as a response is the chat completion response. And yeah, this has, amongst others, these choices, and the choice is essentially the message that comes back. And then they implemented the assistants, which, well, let's put it like this. Yeah, it's very much stateless and all up to you with chat completions. Yeah, so you have to keep track of the messages. You send them to the open AI API, and you get back a completion. And there's nothing on the OpenAI side to remember that, essentially. And it only recently now, with the responses, they actually added the ability to store chat messages. And that's a thing I did 2 days ago. So if you do a chat completion request, there's now a thing to store. Yeah. And if you set this to true, it defaults to null. Yeah. Then all of a sudden on your dashboard, you see logs for completions. Yeah. And this is just this test app I have. But if you click on this, this essentially shows you the input and the output. Yeah. And the input, in my case, in the test, it's I give it the system prompt. So this is one message, this is another message. Then the assistant creates a function call, and essentially the fourth message in here is then me returning, or rather, 3 function calls. Yeah. So I have this test set up where essentially you have the birth date function, where you give in put in an enum, either Oliver or Sylvia, and actually, shouldn't that be strict? I wonder. And what this returns is essentially either mine or Sylvia, who's my wife, the birthday, and the query is whose birthday is next this year. So I have this as a test case for, does it do the right function calls to be able to answer this, because it needs to know when is Oliver's birthday, when is Silvia's birthday. It needs to know what is the current date. And then based on the current date, it would have to reason which is next. Yeah. So this was done with GPT-4.1. So this very nicely does 3 function calls, yeah, to get the current date time, to get the birthday for Sylvia and get the birthday for Oliver. And the return here for Oliver is this, for Sylvia is this, and for current day is this. This doesn't show the tool called IDs by which the system knows what answer goes with what tool call. And based on this, it says, yeah, Oliver's birthday is July 24th and Sylvia's is September 17th. And since it's April 24th today, Oliver's birthday will come next. Yeah. So, but this just to show you have 2 kinds of logs here. You have completions and you have responses. Yeah. And so it took a while for the things to appear. Yeah. But eventually they did, which is quite nice. If you want to have a nice visualization what was going on, this is quite useful here, better than what I have locally anyway. And the other thing, and yeah, by the way, for the longest time, AgentCorp, the functions that I had in Agents Core were like manually crafted and exposed. Yeah, manually crafted meaning I was putting together a struct, and then this struct I would make a JSON for it. And with Swift MCP, I've developed two main things that are of great benefit to me in Agent Corp. And so what I did 2 days ago is, for one, I replaced the schema creation with, in Swift MCP I have in Swift MCP I have a macro that creates the schema description, this JSON schema for any type, and this it then is able to create a proper JSON for. Like for example, for an object, it would say type object and the properties required description, and that works very well. So I was able to rip out. I had a JSON schema dependency in Swift MCP. When I replaced it, I had this one, and also here in AgentCorp. So that was one thing I was able to replace. So you can see it actually here in the, where would you see it? In the AgentCorp CEO target. You should be able to see it. Okay. Show of hands. Is this of interest, or would you rather me go to work? Should I continue to explain it, or should I get to start working? Do I see any kind of reactions? I see only live. Whoopty whoopty. Post interactions. Change, you can reply. Everyone. I think you just have to reply to the post, I guess. Well, okay. So to make this short, the second thing I did is here is essentially in, I wanted to show you the, in my sources, in my CO terminal app, yeah. If we look back to how it was before, yeah. So I had It's the other way around. Uncommitted changes. Even further back. No, that's already with the JSON thing. Further back here. Uh, well, never mind. So essentially how it is now is that if I have a local function, if I look for demo tools, yeah, I use Swift MCP's MCP server and I make a actor demo tools, and each individual function I just use MCP tool for it. And this basically gives me the metadata. Where is it? Didn't expect. Maybe I want to build it. If I build it, I get the does it show me the markup? No, why is that? It's okay. That's in the demo app. So I can use look at the default tools. Does this expand? If it build, yeah, here it builds it. And so this gives me all the meta info coming from the documentation comments. So such as the internet, description, name, the description of the parameters plus the types, and the JSON schema that I have for every type. It can create the appropriate JSON schema. Also for the return type, which is not relevant for MCP or tool calling, because those only return text essentially. But for open API return, that can return structured values. So for that, it's used. And then here's the function to call search web, but giving it a params dictionary, and it knows to extract the parameter query as a string from this array, and then it passes it to the actual search web with the correct type, and that works with any kind of type. So any built-in type, but also structs. But for any struct that you use, you need to annotate it with schema. Add schema, and then it gets a JSON schema for the struct as well. Yeah. So that's the one thing I did 2 days ago. And yesterday I worked a lot on the responses API, and I like to do that in not tool tests, but in responses. Here's my unit tests for OpenAI responses. So the first thing I did was I wanted to be able to create a response. Hello, how are you? With a metadata. And so what we can do is we can actually run this, and we get back a response. Just copy the ID. And if we go now to responses, we should see from just now, here's this input. This is the response I just created. And if you don't know where in the list it is, you can just enter the ID here, enter, and then I'm ending up at the same one. And it's very useful because it shows you the temperature and the metadata. Yeah, see, I put put in metadata, this dictionary. You also have this here, and yeah, you get your response and how many tokens it was. It says token input, token output. Yeah, so that was working quite quickly, and so what I then went on about, so in the documentation you see there are multiple kinds of use cases. Yeah, you can, for example, also there's now a server-side web search tool. It's called Web Search Preview. Yeah, and of course I wanted to implement that as well. So that's here, web search. When you use this tool, basically you have to give it this tool in the tools array, and so these are tool descriptions, and I have this web search, file search function is my local functions. I specify a user location and sort of any news about the area. Yeah, and if I, let's say, if I do this now, if I run this, it should also appear on our logs. So now we have here some news. There are some recent developments in healthcare, innovation, and so on and so forth. And if I go to dashboard, responses, here's the recent news. So let's see how that looks in the Open AI API. Okay, that shouldn't take that long. Okay, here it is. So this is what I pasted. The date just like this, so that it has the current date. Search the web. It doesn't show me the individual results from search the web, which would look like, this is just a JSON I'm logging out. So web search call, actually, no, it doesn't show it here either. It just shows a web search call was made, completed. And then this is a message. This is like the assistant message with this text, role assistant. But it does have these citations. I think these citations are the index in the text. Yeah. So these citations here, they refer to indexes in the text. And yeah, it's nice because this even markdown shows you the markdown in formatted ways. Yeah, and the annotations. Yeah, so and to just gloss over some others. So what I also did was to do the structured response. Yeah, so that's how you do a structured response. You define a struct and annotate it with add schema, because add schema gives it, does it show, gives it this schema metadata, and this schema metadata I can create a JSON schema for. Yeah, so that's why the create structured output, I give it a text configuration with JSON schema for this this struct, actually person schema JSON schema format. the reason, I don't know why I do have name schema separately, and in the schema, this I also do have a name and a schema. I possibly could optimize this a bit to have less typing here, but it works. So you get back if you do this. Whoop. We get, look at the logs right away, responses. So I'm asking it to return a JSON object with name and age. The assistant says age 0, name nothing. Yeah. Return a JSON object with a random plausible name and age for a person. Yeah, and it's fabulous, this JSON schema return type, because a lot of the trouble, does it actually update it, or do I have to refresh it? I don't know how often it refreshes it, if at all. Okay, now you see, now it returned the JSON, Olivia Bennett, age 29. That's a plausible name and age in a struct that, and actually, do we see, yeah, this is the request. Format schema object, required name and age, properties, name string, age number, type JSON schema, name person. So this is how behind the scenes this JSON schema is created, and OpenAI very nicely follows it. And the other thing that's nice is most open source LLMs by now also are able to do this. Yeah, the next thing I did actually was I also wanted to test the reasoning. So let's run this unit test quickly to find out how many R's there are in strawberry. And actually, you have the ability to say that you want a summary, but you only get this if you identify yourself. So there's a place on the OpenAI website where you have to identify yourself with a personal document. And as soon as you do that, this feature is now available. And let's see how it looks. We do see here in the output, we now get actually, if I go straight to the ID, why is this RS? No, that's not. This is the ID of the response. You need to have the right identifier. So this is what I said, and it shows the reasoning such with a quote here. And so I've counted the letters. The letter R appears 3 times. So this is the standard test for reasoning models nowadays, if it can actually count these 3 R's here. Yeah, works nicely as well. And what else? So yeah, you have different things that you can put in. Yeah, one thing is you can give it a image URL as an input image, and you can also there's a way to do it with data, but I didn't implement that. I'd have to look how to do this. But here the example that my vibe coder made for me is to take this picture from Wikimedia and to ask what's in this image. And one of the input contents is this input image. So let's run this. And by the way, do we see that here? What's in this image? That's the list. This image shows a scenic landscape. Yeah, so we get the ID so that we can directly look at it. And you see, this is the image that we attached via image address is this Wikimedia. Yeah, and what's in this image, and it seems to quite well say what it is. And what I have here at the bottom is also what's new in responses is that you can list. There are two things that it can do over chat completions. One is with a chat completion, you always have to provide the entire history. And with responses, you can do that, but you don't have to do that. If you don't want to put in everything again, you just specify where do I have it? You specify the previous response ID. So in this case, this is a multiple chat stuff. Yeah. So first, I'm asking, tell me about unicorns, and the second question is, tell me more about unicorns, referring back to the previous one. And I even at one point I tried, if you do this previous response ID, then you will get an error message if you put a item with the same ID as one before a second time. And so that's how I learned. Yeah, no, actually, you only put in what's new, but it still takes all the previous ones for the reasoning. So I think internally it does some sort of caching or something. But let's look at it. If we run this, second message. So this is the mythical creatures. And here is the second one. Certainly, there are more interesting details. So let's look at this response. We should now actually see if I'm looking for the second response in a thread of 2. All right, but it says only second message. Previous responses here. So you can load the previous one, but this is essentially the thread. Yeah. So first response input. So this is the output, which is the second response. And the input for this was both, this was the first response, yeah, user assistant, plus the third message is my second message. And all these 4 were the input for this. Yeah. So that's kind of nice because it simplifies. You don't have to, with chats, you have to always have an array of these messages and keep adding to it, and it gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. And for some reason here the total 140 in, so it's still this is 140 input. So let's see, actually, let's look at the first response. The first response was this. Actually, you can put it directly in the path. So there are following responses. Interesting. So here we have 140. It counted for the second one. And for the first one, we had 15 in and 109 out. So 124. So there are 16 additional tokens, apparently, that it counted. So what is 16? Is this user plus assistant? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Maybe it's user and assistant that it counts extra. Maybe something of that sort. There's a few additional tokens here. But what you can see from that is that all the tokens still count 140, yeah, as input and out. But I believe there's probably some form of caching. Yeah, if you do that quickly enough, actually, we do have the usage information. So we do have 0 cached tokens. So if you, in this case, it doesn't seem to do the caching. Yeah. So caching probably takes effect if you have a long system message and you keep referencing that at some point it starts to cache it. But in this case, I would have assumed that there would be some cache tokens on the input. But alas, there are none at the moment. So we'll have to see how the caching works. Responses API OpenAI caching. Prompt caching. How it works, cache lookup. Caching is enabled automatically for prompts that are 1024 tokens or longer. So it doesn't cache for very short messages. So if my prompts were longer than that, yeah, so it needs to be 10 times as long as it was currently, then it would start using caching. Might make sense because like you pay cents per million and this is just 140, so it doesn't bother caching this. Yeah, good. So yeah, and finally the last thing I did on the responses API was to implement listing. You ask me, listing, what is listing? Well, you create model responses, and if you refer back to previous ones, you can have like a thread of multiple responses that are sort of the messages of those are chained up. But for some reason, you might want to know what was the input going into a certain response. And here we have a function to list the input items. Yeah. So if you give it the response ID and I say input items, you get an array, and that's what I'm doing here. List input items is essentially here, this list is the inputs that went into the second response. So what do I expect here? My first prompt, first message, the first assistant response, and then my second message, because the fourth message is actually the output of the second response. So, and we do have this here. So here is tell me about unicorns, the output text from the assistants, and then the second message. And the default is to sort it reverse chronologically. And you can affect that by actually giving a different order. And by the way, I'm seeing the order here still being a string. So one thing I'll do is list input items. The order should be an enum. So here we go. Wipe coding starts now. On let's just refer to this. Refer to what do I? It's easier if I just take the response test. Make the order a parameter of listing response items and enum, and just look it up. Do we have ask somewhere sort order? We already do have it. Use existing this. And this is now Gemini 2.5 Pro. Let's see. So order descending. And I don't like how cursor does it. So I always order descending list input items. Well, except, but you also need to update the function, of course. Yeah, so the parameter instead of string should be sort order. And it takes the raw value, which is the string, to append. And now what should be possible is, if I want them ascending, whoopty, list again. That's where unit tests are fabulous because, all right, dear wipe coder, Swift test this test and fix issues. Swift test knows what the command is. We want the Swift AgentCorp response tests. No. Okay, it does everything. But at least it sees. I could have copy pasted this, but I prefer if it actually sees this and it knows how to fix it. Okay, cut. And now it's doing all the unit tests. And yeah, OpenAI key does not seem to be existing here, so it can't run it. It would skip it. But of course, I have the Open API key set up in this. So what I can do is run this again here. It's a bit stupid with where do you put your keys and stuff. So here's the list again. Earned Okay, this is the image input one. But what you do see is, well, no change here. Let's look at this list input, and we want the order ascending. Replace. Bottom. Tell me more. And here's the list result. And now the sort order is first message. So here's the content. No, data. Okay. Here's the first message, first response, second message, then more about Unicode. So we've changed the sort order, and it's now. And since we have our white coder here, commit with a good short message. And that is something I think I want to sort of automate also. So if you have your unit tests passing again, or if you work on just one and you got it to running, then you always want to, okay, Gemini 2.5 Pro is maybe too slow for this purpose. Stop. Try it again with auto. Now it's generating the command. Order enum for list input items order parameter. Did it commit it? Git status, git log, and it did. Refactor use sort order enum for. Well done, well done. So good. We have this. So yeah, and by the way, since the responses are now being stored by default, for responses you don't have to specify a store parameter because they're always stored. You can also retrieve them. So there's a function retrieve by so get response by ID, and you get back the response. And I imagine that's probably exactly what the dashboard does. That somehow they have a list of responses. This is something you can do in assistants. You can list assistants, and then you can list the threads of an assistant. You cannot list responses at the moment, and you can. There's also no listing completions. So the question is, you would still probably, if you wanted to create a thing like this, you still have to keep track of, or get sort of hold on to the response ID. If you have that, then you can do this. You can retrieve it, and you can also retrieve the input items. Yeah, and in this case, if there's a previous response, yeah, you can also retrieve that following response. Yeah, it says here. So now you have all in one. So you get the response. If there's a previous response, you can get that as long as there are previous responses. And then for each response, you can also get the input. So how is it here? In this case, this is the output. This is what the response is. And this is the input items array. Okay. And what you can also do is you can delete it. So similar to Assistance API, there is a way to delete responses, yeah, which I've also implemented here. So the unit tests I created yesterday were creating, retrieving, deleting a response, creating one with structured output, creating one with reasoning. This is a fun thing where I basically that's how I'm doing tools now with the help of Swift MCP, not as a fancy MCP, but just to get sort of the tool descriptions from an MCP server. Yeah. So I get the tool descriptions, which is tool description like this. Yeah. In this case, it's type function, and then you have a function description, which is name, description, parameters, and parameters is essentially a schema object, and so on and so forth. And I have a extension on MCP tool providing, and an MCP server is tool providing if it has at least one tool. Yeah. And so if we expand this, you see this has the MCP tool metadata, and it consists of the MCP metadata add, which is MCP metadata. This is the I'm looking for this expand macro. This is this MCP metadata add that has all the tool metadata, as I showed you before. And from this, I can, and basically, by the way, this is where I found out that you can't have the same message twice, because it was confusing to me. How do you send the tool result, which is a local thing, back to the server? So the first thing I'll do, here's a first response, is to just ask for this question and give it this tool. And then the response is a function call output. So the first item of the response has to be of type function call. And function call gives me ID, call ID, name, the arguments to call it with. Yeah. And then you need to actually do the calculation. So here I'm just checking if the parameters are the right ones. And this is the actual calculation. And the output of that, I create a function called output for it, basically giving it the call ID and the output. And actually, I'm just thinking call ID output. Do I want the status too? Maybe not. And then I create another response where the input is just this function call output. Again, I give it the tools. And the response then of that is the actual result. So we'll run this. Replace. And here I had, I thought, okay, do I have to put in all the history into the final response here into this input array? But I do have the previous response ID, and the message you get if you do that, a message with a certain ID is already present, and you can't have that. So if you want to put all in, you can't have this previous response ID. But I think it's way more convenient like this. Yeah. So I just refer to the previous response and add the tool result, and then I get my output. And the output, you see the result is this 42 plus 58 is 100 is the message, the output. And I do a list afterwards to to show this. And you see here the input for the final completion was, this is again reverse order. So here's the question first. Then comes the assistant doing the function call with these numbers, this call ID, and here's my response. And all of that resulted in this output here. Yeah, so that's how I figured this out. Yeah, and this is where we stand now. Are there any questions so far? Well, does not seem to be. I don't see anything on Twitter. I don't see anything on Twitch, I think. And on YouTube. Where's the tube? No. StudioYouTube.com. Go live. I'm already live. Concurrent views 4. I've never had four viewers yet, but nothing on the chat. So, all right then. Actually, when we put this, can I not drag this onto my other monitor that I have here on the right side? Oh, it's stuck. Help. Help. Okay, let's make this smaller. All right, so far, this is a tour of what I've been up to the past few days. What's now missing with the responses is the streaming, and that's a bit more work than I care for, but still I need to do it and want to do it, because if you have any kind of chat interface, you want the stuff to be streaming in. And fortunately, I've already implemented that for assistants. And how it works there is essentially you get, while the streaming comes in, you get small packages, and then you can assemble these locally into sort of a temporary view of the response. And at the very end, you then have the full one. Yeah. So I think we're now 1 hour in. Yeah. So let's see. IP reference. This is actually what I wanted to do. Is there an answer here? Greetings hotlink. Somebody gave it a like. Yeah, by the way, one thing, because this is a message I put in the OpenAI forum, I found that if you, in the case where I listed the input items and where I did that for the image input, I also did the list items. Where is it? Here. And I found that by default, you do not get the image URL back on the input items. You just get null. And I later figured that there's a parameter include, yeah, where you need to include message input name, message input image. And only if you do that, it will then populate the image URL. And what's odd there, let me show you on the API. If you API reference for responses and for list input items, and this is a get, so it doesn't have a body, but rather you have to put the parameters in the query, and that means basically appending them here, ampersand include, and it kept saying, well, it's a string, not an array. And then I found I have to essentially just do this, have an array to include, and then it would do that option. Actually, we can try what happens if I do multiple ones. Let's see. I don't know if that works correctly for the if I specify multiple, because then I might have to do the comma separate them. Oh, is it working? No, we're not that far. Aha. Yeah, so this is what I meant. So here is now the input image. And by the way, there are some other things. There's a detail, auto, file ID null. So the computer call output, it would, I think it would include it, but I'm not 100%. Yeah. What I'm happy is that I figured out that I need to pass include array. But does it then mean include brackets first, comma, include brackets second? Does it deal with that properly? It doesn't complain. Yeah, so it might work. Okay, good. I need a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes. So let me just give you. So all right, let's get back to working here. So second part, streaming, and there's a lot of things here to unpack, literally unpack. So I just need to go, I think, one by one. Response in progress. Because each of these are they all responses? Well, it's object response, and most of the things filled in. So let's refresh the memory, how it is with assistance. Yeah, assistance. Do I have? I don't have the streaming. Do I have? No, streaming as such here. Is it threads? Is it runs? In runs, I did streaming. Run with streaming. So in assistance, you create an assistance, and you create a thread with a message, and then you run the stream. And sort of running the stream is kind of like what you would do in an agentic or a tool calling loop, where you see what response comes back, and then you say if it's a function call, you submit the function call, and then it does some more running. And the state of the art is not to do that actually on the server, because you still need to do stuff locally. And even especially if you are agentic, you want to be agentic on the local machine. So I think that's the reason why they removed the concept of runs for responses. Responses is sort of has some ideas from assistance, but for the most part, it's more similar to chat completions than to assistance. Now, okay, how I do it here. So if I create a stream, it's an async throwing stream of stream events and stream event objects. And here I have my first problem, because stream event, these are just assistant stream events. So I would probably have to namespace the stream events for the new thing. And then I have my stream event objects. So threads, run step delta, message delta, or error. And if we, let's see, if we go assistance, no, I mean assistance streaming, we do have these object message delta, run step delta. We do only have thread message. We have thread, run step delta, message delta, and error. And they've organized it slightly different here. So error, thread created is thread, message delta. So these are the different kinds of objects that are encoded as JSON. And for responses, they've actually put them out like this. So how do I approach that? Mr. Vibe Coder, I want to, let's see, use as a basis assistant runs look at how I implemented streaming for runs. Don't do any changes yet. Just analyze and summarize. And to be safe, let's do it with thinking. Let's see, Claude. Let's try with Claude. So I create a run stream that creates a streaming run, but with stream through the run creation. You create a parallel streaming version. So there's run stream along run, submit tool core output. Actually, this is, where's this? This is an extension to OpenAI. Yeah, so I will probably also want to have the same thing that when I'm running this, that it would submit the tool calls also automatically. List run steps, process event stream. And this is OpenAI runs. OpenAI core systems runs. So it creates the stream, and what I'm interested in is then this process event stream. And it gets async bytes from the stream of the OpenAI server with events. And there's event potentially with a name and then data. And this data, depending on what the current event is, would be different kinds of structs that I then yield on the stream event. Yeah. So what we do need is something like this. Where am I now? In assistant stream event. Okay. So we need something like stream event, but for responses. First, to avoid a clash in the name, let's call it responses stream event. And can I somehow, I want to have the first one is response created. I don't need all of that, I think. It's a response object that's being So we are waiting. It's always a good time to ask some questions, if there are any. So let's see what we got. And by the way, always good practice. Git checkout -b responses streaming. So we have a response, and error. Is there an error event? There is an error event. Yeah, okay, I agree. So we want response created. Do we have that? Mm. Mm. So I don't even have in the stream event. I'm not returning the different events, but I'm only returning. So in progress, completed, failed, incomplete, output item. Okay, output item now gives us type item. We have response without output item. The second kind is output item. What do we have as output item? Yeah, possibly. But I need some type somewhere, right? Yeah, type message. Output item. Output item, type message. Then this, okay. Let's see how it did it. Output item added. And then the item, which is one of those. All right. And we don't need those because we're doing that by ourselves. output item edit. Output item done. There's another type, output index. Response output item. It's an index and item. Done. And if it's index and item, then I think we don't need a special struct for this. I think it's the same as output. Output item edit done. So content part. Index ID, index part type, index ID, index part type. Well, there's more now. There's this part, but there are 4 values or 3 values if you want to. If this is the sort of the enum, I would have 4 parts. No, actually, let's do a separate struct for each stream event. I'm thinking I want an output item edit struct and output item done struct. And then we also need the created in progress. Besides response created, we need response in progress completed. Actually, why not use the image? All of them would return only a response object. Okay. Accept. Response created in project, completed, failed, incomplete, added, done. And what's the difference here? Output index, index item, output item event. I think should we merge and into output item info that has the index. So the attachment is output item info and output item. There is a live chat. Chat messages will appear here. So I say hi on Twitter. And I say there's the chat publicly on YouTube. Okay. Hi. I said hi. And on Twitch. Activity. Oh. And I can say hi here. I now said hi on all three chats. Let's see if anybody says hi back. So output item info, index and output item. Yeah, okay. Let's go with that for now. Now, next up, we need content parts. Output text. content part added and done. There is a content part. But I don't think we have something like that yet. Content item. Content item. So in the shimmering forest, okay, it starts response content part. I don't think content item, output text or refusal. Output text. Text delta. Emitted when a new content part is added. Added and done. Well, let's see. Let's accept that for now. Content. What did it change here? It says modified, but don't see application. So we don't need those. Are taken care of automatically. Okay. Content part. And now, next up, output text. Actually, let's try it. Maybe this is more efficient. Just give it the entire thing. in annotation edit. So annotation, file citation. Interestingly, that this is not implemented so far. Okay, text done. Refusal delta, refusal done. So they just add output text done. Next up, refusal delta. And maybe we can do this and 2. Hey, now function call delta and done. Yeah, so while we're waiting, it's quite fascinating to me on these three streams how different it looks like. For example, right now on YouTube, it shows that I had 32 views, and most of the people I had an hour after I started. Supposedly three people even. Now there's nobody. On Twi- uh, Twitter, let's go to, I have my iPad here on Twitter. So here we see 74 live. Yeah. So while we're waiting, Twitter, let's go to. It doesn't look like I can chat on Twitter on iPad. So here we see on iPhone I can 74
so,
live. Yeah. So
74.
while we're waiting,
I don't think there are currently
Twitter.
74 people
to-
watching this.
It
There would
doesn't
be
look
more.
like I can.
It might be that.
on
So
iPad.
it looks
So
like
here
Twitter
we
is
see
not on iPhone
being
honest.
74
So
live.
X
Yeah. So
7 is
while
not
we're
being
waiting,
honest. I don't
it does
think
not
there are
show,
currently 74 people
concurrent
viewers.
There would be more
concurrent viewers, but it might be that. So it looks like Twitter is not on iPhone honest.
ever clicked
So
on it.
X
Yeah. So
7 is
while
not
we're
being went away. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Good. That's function call. Edit function. How did it? Function call delta arguments. Arguments done. All right, back to, no, that's not it. Here's my function call. File share, search in progress. Yeah, this is one of the things that I'm looking forward to, because even though the assistance has the ability to search files, I've never implemented anything with it. But this is very, very interesting that OpenAI is actually providing a vector database search for us. Does this fit? So where's my, here, implement this and searching. This and this. So it's now doing all the file search things. Need this one. I'm thinking if they are sort of the same, delta info, refusal, so there's delta and there's done. Yeah, they have the same content index, but then you have either a delta or the final thing. There could also be an enum instead of two separate less types. So it would be refusal done, and then either dot refusal or dot delta with a string. Okay, so supposedly that's done. We now have file search call info. File search call info. Can it reuse it? It's the same. In progress. It's smart enough because the object is identical to use the same struct. Awesome. Now for web search. Maybe let's try to be more bold. Do web search in progress. Web search in progress. Go. Call searching. Go. Call completed. Web search completed. And then the reasoning. And reasoning summary done. And reasoning summary delta. And summary text done. Implement. Well, and if I had an agent, so there's my speaker. So while it's working here, if I had an agent, I would probably just say, okay, start here, go to this web page and implement all you find. But the thing that sort of it wouldn't yet at this moment do it like I want it, because I want, for example, to have proper native Swift types for most things. Yeah, like a date should be a date, not just a number. And the other thing is in the JSON, they use snake case, but I automatically map those with my JSON decoder encoder to what's it called? Pascal case, I think. I'm not sure, where you have the uppercase, then lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. Right. Supposedly. we now have everything. So file search, web search, reasoning, part edit done, summary delta, summary done, error. And we have this question, part edit. Then you have summary part, delta or text done, type text. Let's try. How does this look? Merge these two, and the only property that changes should be an enum instead. Oops, I have to tell it what this. Do I still have the thinking on? Maybe can go back to auto. Let's try it again. Try again. Ah, there's something. Reading text delta button. So how would this look? So, did it do that? Content info. Here's delta or done. Reasoning summary text. I actually would prefer then not that. Rename. And this reasoning summary text content info. And in this case, summary part info part reasoning summary part edit done part type text these are the same part of type text. delta. Then it says text or some, otherwise delta or the text. Let's call this text. Reasoning summary, text content info. Reasoning summary event. Event info. Reasoning summary info. Reasoning summary part info. Reasoning summary info. Reasoning summary part info. ID output summary part. The output summary content. Git commit. So now I need, similar to, this is the model. I want OpenAI responses. OpenAI responses. Implement the streaming version. Log 2 runs now for responses parallel to the non-streaming version. And how do I have it in the systems I have run? Process event stream. the stream on X ended after 2 hours, comma, I'll just go on for a short while longer on the other feeds before going to lunch. Now I'm very, very curious. So we have create response stream. It says the bytes for the request, and we return the stream, and the stream put item added, item done. Couldn't I stream went object done? Well, it does look okay. Question is if the prefix see the builds. Ba-da! Full speaker. Ba-da! It builds, it builds, it looks fabulous. It seems to be doing exactly what it should. So if you connect, so both of them work the same way. There's a internal struct currently with file private that has parameters optionally, and this is used by both of my functions. Got this list in between here, create response stream, but okay, why not? Let's just add a mark streaming. And here we do mark creating responses. But I would want managing responses, and this is actually, it is creating, I want them next to each other, I think, and then you can manage them by getting this impact and this streaming. We actually, this is an internal helper, mark helpers, and this should be next to it. And it doesn't have to say streaming because the name implies it. Create response stream, and it fills it in, creates a post, and then it gets the async bytes and processes them and returns an async throwing stream of responses stream event. Yeah. for your help. Touch ID or password. No. So now it's looking at my world view. Let's see, full speaker, full screen. The screen isn't updated. Properties. Okay. Here it is again. Yeah, I'm quite fascinated. It did everything flawless. So at this point, just commit the checkpoint. Checkpoint. And we need a test for it. Test, test, test. Runs test. Add a unit test for streaming. Not much checking yet. I just want to see if the stream events can be parsed. Response test, responses test. Oh well. Nope. Just make a simple streaming responses creation. I don't want this. Tell me short joke and see if this works. When we get back. Test already running. Is it already running it? No, it's not. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Build. Process response event stream, we call it. Yeah, let's get rid of this stupid stuff and put it here where it works. It should be this. Okay, here we are. Unknown event type, response of text delta. Uh, I renamed the process event stream function. So apparently the API is prefixing everything with response dot, which is sort of like the namespace we could use as well, because we have a struct response. So let's see. This is now not found. Is it testing already? No. Why is it here? It shouldn't be. Oop. Okay, but we're getting something. The ID value responses. Response in progress without an ID. Output the JSON data we get. String equals string data, JSON data encoding. I have the JSON string already. Print JSON string. So we do have in progress. It does have an ID. I think I need to stop when I can't do catch. Print error. Response wrapper. Type response. Created response. There was a wrong label for a certain Okay. Finish. No, this, just this. Hmm. Where is it? Did it finish? Response completed. Does it not end the stream? It does finish the continuation. So it should the wrong one. Response test. Great response 3. This. So there's no done, it seems, on streaming. Streaming responses. Responses, stream, no, done. All right, I'm done with my cooking for today. It was a bit longer than I thought, namely 1.5 hours longer than I wanted, but um, we've got to the result that I was looking for. So we have the responses streaming now fully implemented and test cases for normal as well as function calling, and works just fine. Maybe some more tests might be good. And I think I just thought of some one more thing. Okay, actually before I go, let me do this one more thing. Namely, I don't like how this code looks. This should be actually response in progress. This should be a switch. Change this code to a switch. In here. And let's do it auto select. If else, if else, if else is just stupid. Yeah. And has prefix case where actually we don't need the has prefix, but just compare the full string. Because this way just is case this, case this, case this, and so on. And how does it look now? Much nicer. Intent. So that's that. We still need to make sure that it builds, so, or rather tests. So do the test cases. And the other thing I was thinking is the model for responses. Responses stream event. I want to model responses and the stream event. Split this up into set files. Use responses stream event plus struct. So no, what? Okay. But it should be namespaced. Put all of the extracted structs into an extension responses stream event to namespace them. Some tidying up, sweeping the floor after we have cooked. I've got two versions of it. Delta and done, okay. Right. All these reasoning summary info. These should be now external. Output item info. These should be somebody at the door. All right, final touches. Doing this namespacing thing here. Web search call needs closing. Nah, I hate it. Right, search call info. Now everything except error detail is prefixed. Let's see if my unit tests still work. Yippee! Yippee! So the point of this is I want to have this all separate. Type object. And object with an enum. This is too much. And this just called object because his namespaced anyway. Let's group that under stream. Super. Streaming now all here. Okay. Where's my OBS? Here's my OBS. So thank you guys. I'm now very, very hungry, and I'm very glad with what I've cooked. It took a bit longer than I thought. Well, I wasted 1 hour giving everybody the tour, and the implementing of streaming was now essentially 1 hour 40 minutes. But we have responses streaming working, and there's not much there now left to do except maybe some tweaking and sort of improving. But the next step is now to actually put this into a form that I can chat with. But for that, we'll do that the next time. So